And now, here's your host, Rob McClendon.
Hello, everyone. Thanks for joining us. Well, step inside the National Cowboy and Western Heritage Museum in Oklahoma City, and you can feel you are somewhere special. From the magnificent end-of-the-trail sculpture that greets visitors at the door, to exhibits that range from fine art to historical firearms, this museum is a treasure trove of delights for anyone who has the slightest appreciation for the American West. For more than 50 years, the museum has honored those individuals who work to preserve the values that are inherent to the Western way of life with their annual Western Heritage Awards. And today, we'll meet some of the latest inductees, which includes actors, writers, artists, and even a scientist. But we begin today with a man who played larger-than-life characters, yet remained humble and down to earth. And while he was Western through and through, he didn't gain his notoriety wearing a Stetson, but a coonskin cap.
When Walt Disney chose an unknown 6'6" singing Texan for the role of frontiersman Davy Crockett, was it because he had an eye for raw talent and charisma, or for the bottom line?
Dad has a couple takes on how that worked out. You know, one part of him would like to think that Walt Disney was just blown away by his acting potential, and then the businessman side of him realized pretty quickly that Walt Disney was a smart guy and figured he could get Fess for a lot less money than James Arness.
Walt Disney had seen Fess Parker alongside James Arness in a 1954 sci-fi thriller called Them. He was said to have been impressed by the earnest sincerity of Fess, portraying a pilot who refused to back down from his incredible story of giant killer ants.
One of those roles, even though it was a minute and a half, 2 minutes maybe max, right time, right place, and the rest was history.
But even Walt Disney couldn't have predicted the craze caused by Davy Crockett, which put coonskin caps on kids around the world and turned a humble Texas farm boy into an overnight international sensation.
It must have been amazing for him after really, struggling is
toiling in obscurity.
Exactly. For that to unfold, the way it did. The thing I'm always amazed about is the fact that he kind of managed to keep his sense of humor about the whole thing.
Fess Parker's kids believe it was, in fact, his sense of humor, paired with a quiet strength, that made their dad perfect as Davy Crockett. His good looks didn't hurt either, and he was quickly cast in several other big-screen roles, including the tearjerker Old Yeller.
It's not all like that. A lot of it's mighty fine. And you can't afford to waste the good part fretting about the bad. That makes it all bad.
The speech he gives his son when he comes home, it's so much like the dad that we knew. It's really kind of unbelievable how lucky he was with the roles that he got.
Daniel Boone was a man, yes, a big man.
Eli and Ashley remember their father best during his days as Daniel Boone in the late 60s TV series.
He'd come home from the set and we'd put on his boots and they were like hip waders on us, and he'd have his jacket and everything and we'd wrestle around. And he had to be away a fair amount, but he was a really hands-on dad when he was home.
He really enjoyed the simple things in life. For the most part, he was a blue jeans and pickup truck kind of guy.
Fess Parker's roots in ranching and an eye for real estate led him to purchase an acreage of his own north of Santa Barbara, near Los Olivos.
He was so happy. He had his Barca lounger and a little pot-bellied stove and, this tiny little ranch cottage, and he was happy as a clam, so pretty simple taste.
That ranch is now the Fess Parker Winery, which became the focus of his life after he retired from Hollywood, along with the development of other California properties, including the spectacular Fess Parker Doubletree Complex in Santa Barbara.
We're very fortunate to have what he has contributed and the lasting legacy that he's given us. And terms of something we all enjoy.
Here's the Fess Parker. Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, to Fess.
No one will forget his last day at the winery in the summer of 2010 as he was wheeled in front of the screen at an outdoor viewing of the movie Davy Crockett to a standing ovation.
And he was so cute, and he took off his hat, and so that was the image that you saw as he moved across the screen and left the winery for the last time. And that was great. He wowed him, to the end.
Fess Parker celebrated his 50th wedding anniversary with his wife Marcella the following January and passed away exactly 2 months later. Ashley and Eli say to the end, their father was grateful for the chance to play Davy Crockett and Daniel Boone and determined to live up to the public's expectations.
He would sit and visit with people who had invariably had a glass or two of wine, and could you sign my hat? Could you sign my back? Could you sign my kid? He was so gracious and just had the stamina even into his 80s. It was unbelievable.
Fess Parker is buried on a hilltop in Santa Barbara between his mother Mackie and his father, Fess Elisha Parker Sr., in a simple grave marked by the symbol he made famous.
Kind of says it all. That coonskin cap was there at the beginning, and it was there at the end, and it will be there for all time.